What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Business Choreography Podcast. And today we are talking about the launch loop. So we'll cue the theme song and then we'll jump into the episode.
Listen, there's a lot to learn when growing and scaling your business.
That's why we created the Business Choreography Podcast, where we talk about choreographing your marketing, operations, and sales into dynamic systems that increase your revenue and your impact.
We'll explore solid business principles and discuss all things that make businesses dance to success with clarity.
We'll help you figure out where the holes are in your business and what you can do to fix them. Think of us as your official business choreographers, aka your insider growth strategists.
Remember, your choreography matters. Welcome to the Business Choreography Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the episode. We're excited. Today, like we said in the intro, we are talking about the launch loop. And so we thought we'd start out the episode with talking about what is the launch loop, and specifically our definition of the launch loop. There's a lot of people talking about the launch loop, and we want to make sure that as we start this episode that we are all on the same page of what it is as we go throughout talking about how to get out of the launch loop. So, but let's start with that.
Absolutely. A while back, I can't remember when, but a while back we were recalling what we had learned from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You know Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Robert Kiyosaki, great book. His original book is a timeless piece, very interesting to read, and you'll learn a lot from it. So if you haven't read it, put it on your book list and get to it. Although, in addition to that, he created a board game called Cash Flow Tactics. No, Cash Flow.
Just Cash Flow.
Cash Flow. Yeah, and it's a really cool game, and it teaches you a lot about what he taught about in the cash flow quadrant. And so,
right.
Really cool game, really cool board game, really great for kids if you're teaching them about money and how to exit the rat race, which was coined ages ago. If you haven't seen the podcast that we do on the rat race and the entrepreneurial rat race, go check it out. It's on the show, and it's a good one. So you get a little bit of history there. But in so many instances, we find and come across entrepreneurs and business owners specifically that are still stuck in that entrepreneurial rat race. We know we all have heard of the rat race of life, but there is indeed an entrepreneurial rat race that sometimes entrepreneurs get stuck in. Okay, not sometimes, pretty much all the time. Because we're entrepreneurs and it's what we do. So we wanted to dig in a little bit to that because we were chatting the other day and we started to talk a little bit about our experience playing this game and trying to get out of the entrepreneurial rat race, which is in not necessarily identical, but this launch loop that people get stuck in, entrepreneurs get stuck in. It really feeds the rat race, that rat race of doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting somehow to get out of that grind, out of that loop. Yeah. When we talk about the launch loop specifically, a lot of times, especially in this digital era, we get really thrust into this idea that we should live from one launch to the next. One challenge. Okay, we're going to release our challenge today. Okay, we got to launch our next course. Okay, we've got to launch our next summit. Okay, we've got to launch our next masterclass. Okay, so we get stuck in having to do these launches, and it is somewhat addictive because it's a lot of fun. Yeah. There's a whole lot of building and creativity that goes with it. It's otherwise known as a bunch of cash grabs. So your income can spike. All the revenue that you have for your business can spike up, and it gets really attractive to do on a regular basis.
Right. And when we talk about the launch loop in this specific way, we are meaning that those launches are the things that are sustaining your business. So you do a launch and that sustains your business, and then you go, oh crap, I got to do another launch to keep sustaining my business. And then I've got to do another launch. And so when we look at the launch loop, you're doing the launches because you're forced to. And that is the thing that is sustaining your business. And it becomes a have to, right? And so we want to make sure that when we're talking about this launch loop, that's the perspective that we are talking about it from.
Absolutely. And there's some pluses.
Yeah.
And there's some minuses of doing these launches. We're not saying launches are bad.
No.
And we're not saying that having a cadence of when you were going to do your launches is a bad thing. There are pluses. One of the pluses we've already brought up, which is a cash grab, right? We call it a cash grab because it's a really great time to really infuse your business with some capital. And it can be really beneficial if it's done well. So that's one way, one benefit. Another benefit is that you get a lot of new leads.
Right.
And so it's a good upfront way to get leads if you haven't already standardized another way that's systematic that you're getting leads into your business. Launches can provide a lot of new ones.
Yeah. I think another thing that it does is it creates a lot of hype around you and your business and what you're doing, because you do all these launches and you try to get a whole bunch of people there, and so all of a sudden there's a lot of hype around you and around your product, and I think that also can be fulfilling for entrepreneurs sometimes, because you're getting a lot of attention in those moments, and so that can be another plus that can come from doing or being in that launch loop in the way that we are talking about it. It also feeds the shiny bauble syndrome. And so as entrepreneurs, we have lots of ideas about things that we want to do. We have lots of things going on. And when you are living in this launch loop, it allows you to jump from idea to idea to idea, and okay, I'm going to run a challenge, and I'm going to run a summit, and I'm going to run a workshop, and okay, I'm going to do this mastermind, and I'm going to do this. And so it kind of it feeds that. So that can be a plus. Now we can move into the minuses now. And as we look at some of the minuses of living in that launch loop, where that is sustaining your business, is you don't necessarily have as much consistency and as much predictability, because some launches can go really well and some launches can be not so good, right? And so even though you could get on a consistent schedule of, okay, I'm going to do a challenge every month, I'm going to do a challenge every 2 weeks, I'm going to do a challenge every 2 months, right? And that can be a consistent schedule, and you can maybe start to get some predictability because you can start to understand your numbers. But at the same time, launches can be so different. Every launch can change based on what happens as you're doing that launch. And so you can definitely get stuck inside of that launch loop.
I think that one of the pluses of feeding the shiny bauble syndrome, right, that we get as entrepreneurs is like, oh, we can go do that. And it helps feed that. It helps give you some outlet to create a new thing and feel like it's a new part of your business. That is also at the same time a minus. And part of the reason it can be a minus is because it can distract you. It can distract you from your core product. And in so many instances, your core product is where you need to focus your energy to and make sure that that thing grows, sustains. I'm having a hard time speaking today. It grows and sustains and turns itself into a way to create evergreen sustainability in your business, meaning that it can keep doing its thing. But a lot of times, because it's the old thing in our business, as entrepreneurs, business owners, we go, well, it's kind of boring. So that shiny bauble thing can actually distract us in a negative way. So that's a minus from the launch loop, right? And being stuck in it.
Yeah. So going back to the cash flow game and our experience as we went through that, one of the epiphanies that we had as we were going through it is there are people who are in the launch loop and are living in that launch loop and just trying to sustain their business. Now, there are also people who are using the launch loop to their advantage. And that's something we really wanted to touch on, because the launch loop, you could look at an entrepreneur and go, well, they look like they're launching over and over and over again, right? But what you don't know is in the background, they're actually using it to their advantage, right? You want to explain that a little bit?
When you have a long-term goal and a long-term play for what you're doing, in many instances, like for example, in a funnel, you might create an opt-in funnel or squeeze page that goes to a lead magnet.
Yeah.
And it might go to a small $47.99 product. That product may actually break even for you. Most marketers that know anything about funnels, and even business owners, it could be one of them, know that to have a break-even funnel means that you are on the verge of making $1 million plus, right? Because that break-even funnel works really well with something on the back end. If you have something to sell them, if you have other services that can create a high lifetime value for your customer, now all of a sudden, it doesn't matter if you do a funnel that breaks even on the front end. When you're doing and you're utilizing the launch loop concept of having a consistent cadence of launching on a regular basis, whatever it is that you're putting out, when you're using that and it is the break even, or if you make some money on it, awesome, right? That's really good too. But at worst, you break even and it's okay because you have a long-term goal that you're going to help those clients do something else that's going to serve your business behind the scenes. And there's some really, really cool versions of that. Everybody has it. For example, you could look at Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. They run a challenge periodically. They call it different names here and there. They switch it up and they get thousands of people to show up to their challenge. And really, they offer it as a free challenge. In fact, they also give away to charity. Well, they figured we're going to give away to charity anyway. We might as well utilize it to get some more word out about what we do.
Right.
So they run this huge challenge. They pay lots of money to make it happen, to bring it on, to get it to work. They go through this launch loop on a fairly regular basis. You will get a challenge from them. But their whole goal really is to actually upsell you into their next program. And that next program's job is to upsell you to the next program. And that's just how it always is. So they're not in a launch loop. They are in a launch cadence, right? And it could be perceived from the outside as a launch loop as well, but they have other goals. They have other means by which they are earning their money. And in the front end, they're just trying to provide so much value that you know, right, that they're the real deal, that they are legit and honest and great teachers, and they are. And so they have a really cool process of doing it, but they're not stuck in the launch loop. That's not the only thing they're doing. They've created a massive back end that can actually generate revenue from the customers that come in maybe free on the front end.
Yeah. And revenue that is most likely coming in consistently and monthly, right? It's probably some type of recurring thing that is coming in. And so they're not living from, okay, I just launched this course, this amount of money came in, oh shoot, 6 months later, I'm out of money. They're probably creating something that is recurring revenue for them, that is going to allow that consistency.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. That's the launch loop. Anything else you want to discuss with the launch loop?
Not really. I think that I want you to evaluate where you're at. As a business owner, look at what you're doing. Maybe you're thinking today, for goodness sakes, I'm not doing any launches.
Okay, well, let's at least get into the launch loop, right? Let's at least get into the rat race.
On the side that you have consistent revenue, a launch could actually start to create some nice spikes that you can utilize to build other systems and processes. Yeah. On the flip side, if you are in that launch loop and you're trying to get out, we've got to look at ways that we can create sustainable and consistent revenue. And so I want you to look at that and ask yourself, how can I do that? What do I have to do to exit this launch loop and start to treat it more like a cadence and a systematic process rather than, oh my gosh, I'm living from one launch to the next. That is no way to live as an entrepreneur. It is a way that many of us have lived as entrepreneurs.
100%.
But you shouldn't have to do it. And there are other ways. There are better ways. So I hope you enjoyed our conversation with you about the Launch Loop. Make sure you like and or subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this. Share it with a friend if you know somebody that needs to hear this message. We would appreciate it a lot. And give us a comment. Let us know how you liked the episode. And we do this for you for free because we want to help you. So let us know that it helped and that it's something that you love anyway. Thank you so much for joining us on the Business Choreography Podcast. And we'll see you next time on the next episode. Take care.
Peace out. The choreography your business is running can determine whether you can grow and scale to the next level.
It's so easy just to take business day by day, but that can leave you putting out fires and keep you from growing.
Find out how the choreography for your marketing, operations, and sales can raise your revenue and create more impact.
Schedule a growth strategy analysis call with us today.
Go to bizchoreo.com to book your time.